I'm State Representative Themis Klarides, and I'm lucky today to have with me Bill Purcell, the president of the Greater Valley Chamber of Commerce, and Garrett Sheehan, the president of the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. And we're here just to give you a little update about what's going on in the state, obviously focusing on economic issues, and then getting the perspective of Bill and Garrett, because they are on the ground every day with these businesses, hearing what's happening good, what's happening bad, and what we can do to move this forward in a positive way. As we know, we had phase one in Connecticut on May 20th. That went pretty smoothly. Phase two then opened on June 17th. It was supposed to be the 20th, but it was the 17th. And that, fingers crossed, has still gone smoothly. The businesses that are allowed to open now may open. Remember, it's not a mandate. They don't have to open, but most people are opening because they would want to get their businesses moving as much as they can. The protocols that were developed for the policies and the way each business opens, because remember, each business has a different kind of way they can open and things they have to do and safety standards they have to maintain, were put together by the governor's administration, by DECD, and by the Reopen Connecticut Advisory Panel. They did that in conjunction with the leaders of the legislature and a lot of input all the way around. Phase two, where we are right now, allowed amusement parks to open, hotels, allowed indoor seating for restaurants, indoor museums, zoos and aquariums, indoor recreation such as bowling alleys, movie theaters, libraries, outdoor events. Very importantly, nail salons and hair salons, sports and fitness facilities like gyms, fitness centers, etc. But very important to remember, there are very strict parameters in regards to how many people, how far away they have to be, whether they're wearing masks, whether they're social distancing. So we've taken a lot of pains to make sure that our reopening is being done in a careful manner, but in a manner that gets business and the economy moving as quickly as we can. We know that phase three is supposed to move forward on or about July 20th. I think that we are looking at, unfortunately, a lot going on in the country at large and states that have been that have seen an increase in their numbers. We have been lucky because we, I think, have been doing it the right way, and our numbers continue to go down every day. But because of that, the governor put out a travel advisory last week that said if you come from any state that has 10% or more of the people they've tested test positive, then they have to quarantine for 2 weeks when they come in here or get a test. And so there'll be more states added to that list this week. So obviously just always pay attention to any of our websites, because that information will be updated as quickly as we can. But that will tell you how important it is to make sure we do this in a steady way. That we know that everybody is very anxious to open up. We're all anxious to get out and get back to our lives, but unfortunately doing it too quickly, if you look at these other states, this is what happens. We continue to see those numbers moving forward in a positive way, so that's great. But unfortunately, we've seen a lot of harm that has occurred in the past several months. We have 600,000 people filed for unemployment, which is clearly a record for the state of Connecticut. And these affect everybody from, a big restaurant in Stamford to a little movie theater in Bantam, Connecticut. So it's not affecting one part of the state more than the other. It's affecting business. It is affecting business, and I think the smaller your business is, the more difficult it is to focus on it. We look at the state's unemployment insurance fund, which is a concern for everybody because of the great number of cases we've had of unemployment. As it's happened in the past, businesses are forced to pay off that money that the state gets from government. I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time, and it doesn't happen in the way that it happened before, because again, these are mandates, these are burdens on businesses, and so many of our businesses are small businesses, 5, 10 people, private people that are just working really hard to make sure their business moves and take care of their employees. And when these things happen, it affects you. You've seen restaurants that didn't reopen again. Unfortunately, we'll probably see more. So we have to make sure that what we're doing is doing the most we can do for our economy to move forward, but doing it in a safe way. Because when you look at Florida and Arizona and Texas and the Carolinas and these states now, what's happening is they're now moving backwards. Florida closed their beaches in the southern part of the state for 4th of July weekend. They closed all bars in the whole state of Connecticut. So we don't want to move too quickly because we just want to make sure everybody's healthy, obviously, first and foremost. And all the businesses that we know are the mainstay and the driver, particularly small businesses in the state of Connecticut, can continue to move forward and slowly get their clients back and slowly get their employees back and do it in a safe way. That's a little bit of an update from me. I want to throw it back to Bill and Garrett. You guys can shoot for whoever would like to go first. Give us a little perspective about what you're seeing in your chambers and what you're seeing in your businesses.
Yeah, thanks, Themis. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been obviously such a devastating virus, and there's been the human cost that's just been incredible, but the economic cost for our businesses has been tremendous as well. And we know getting the economy back will help everyone. But as you said, it's really a balancing act, and we took so much pain from a business community that we want to make sure that we do it right, and so that we don't have to go backwards again. I've been extremely impressed with our businesses, first in how they responded, and becoming innovative to try to keep some level of business activity going, whether it was curbside pickup of retail or food. So many different businesses, and even the ones that were deemed essential, let's say a manufacturing facility, how they adjusted on the fly to be able to test employees when they were coming in and make sure that it was a safe environment for their employees, because we've all been learning as we go through this, and there's still many things that we don't know, but we know some of the things that you have to do to be safe. And so it's been slow since we've been having the reopening. I think a lot of that just deals with consumer confidence and getting the consumer to think, that going out to their favorite restaurant or store is safe for them. That's a big onus on the business owner, any business, to make sure that they demonstrate to not only their employees, but their customers as well, that they're operating in a safe way. And from what I've seen, that's happening across the board. Lots of investments have been made. I mean, these are businesses that have not had dollars coming in for weeks, months, and yet they're investing back in their business to install plexiglass, change the flow of the way customers come in, provide PPE for all of their employees. So the businesses are making big investments. They're open for business, and they want to be able to demonstrate that. And we think, as more and more people get out, they start to see that, and we don't want a big rush, but take your time, but also make sure you're supporting these businesses, because if we don't support them, they can't go on forever in this state and of not having economic activity. So there's lots of different ways you can support your local businesses, either through online or going in person. But it's just continuing to build on that progression of getting more economic activity, but also making sure that we're maintaining the health and safety for everyone.
Thank you, Garrett. I'm sure you have just as big a perspective on this, because you both represent such big chambers and similar parts of the state, but different in a lot of ways.
Well, thank you so much, Representative, for having Garrett and I on this morning. Thank you for continuing to produce webinars like this. Your Thursdays with Themis is vitally important that we share and disseminate information during this time of crisis. And also, I just want to say congratulations on your 2 decades of service in the state legislature, and for all you've done for our beloved Valley as a community leader, a director of Griffin Hospital, the support of the Boys and Girls Club, the support of the Umbrella, BH Cares Center for Domestic Violence. So we appreciate it and salute you for your valuable contributions. As you know, in many ways, you look at our Valley, and there are 4 words that really define this place. One is resiliency, ingenuity, and the last 2, kindness and compassion. As you well know, as a native of Seymour and the entrepreneur yourself with your family business, we've been through an awful lot, right? From the Great Depression to the Great Recession, to the flood of 1955, to the
and my father about all the time.
That's right, to the fires, right, from latex foam to the fire in downtown Shelton that really redefined this area and helped us to reinvent ourselves as an economy. So we will get through this. And I think a sense of history is important to have, to know that these things that we have gone through are history. And this too will become history at one point. And we have an opportunity now to do the very best we can with our resiliency and ingenuity. It has been devastating, and you've cited the statistics. However, the good news is that Connecticut is only one of 2 states, week over week, that is seeing a decline in new COVID cases. And, so that is to our credit. You know, this notion that it is everyone's responsibility. Reopening safely is everyone's responsibility. We have to take that very seriously. I just want to give you sort of a thumbnail sketch of what's happening. One of the first things, and Garrett and I both appreciate this, was the decision to really deem all manufacturing as essential. You know, we started first with the defense industry, which you couldn't close down Sikorsky. But this governor and David Lehman and others, and with advocacy across the state, said manufacturing is essential. So it is alive and well here in our valley. And we think of companies certainly like Sikorsky Lockheed, which is the largest private employer in Stratford, of course, but also here in Shelton. And the chain of suppliers that they have been keeping busy during this process. One of the suppliers I spoke with last week, he said, Bill, we haven't missed a beat. You know, our business remains strong. Plastics industry, so many of them are supporting the medical device industry. Continue to be strong. Companies like Modern Plastics, which is our Innovator of the Year, that completely retooled their factory to produce face shields by the hundreds of thousands and distributing it throughout the country. So this is back to this notion of ingenuity. And you know the company, Stelray Plastics, NPI Medical, Farrell Pomini up in Insonia, all supporting the medical device industry. Better Packages supporting the growth of Amazon from their factory in Sonia. Emery Winslow with their industrial scale supporting the food processing industry. So the list goes on and on. PerkinElmer here in Shelton, a life science company. So the manufacturing industry is making it through. To be sure, their office workers continue, many of them continue to work remotely. The hospitality industry has been hit particularly hard. And as you know, we have 5 hotels within a mile of the chamber office, and 2 more, one in Trumbull and one in Stratford. So they have been devastated. They're slowly coming back. Some of them have closed outright. Some of them are providing necessary housing for essential workers. And in one case, it's serving as a emergency shelter and has been over the last couple of months. The restaurants, what did we lose, Garrett? 160,000 jobs in the restaurant and hospitality industry. Slowly coming back, you know, first with the takeout, then with outside dining, and now with up to 50% capacity. And they have been innovative, certainly in New Haven, certainly in downtown Ansonia, really across our valley. These restaurateurs are doing whatever it takes to bring their businesses back slow and steady, as well as the brew pubs. And you have 2 of them, Themis and Derby, Adsons and the Hops Company, you know, which are also making a comeback. Just finally, a comment about the office environment. You know, this is a major office center. This downtown New Haven is as well. And I'm going to just share this anecdotally. RD Cinto, as you know, is the campus right next door to the chamber office. And during normal times, there's about 6,000 people that come to work there every day. There are 25,000 people that come into Shelton every day during the regular times. Now, it's probably safe to say we're at about 20%. So there's more than meets the eye. And as Garrett says, you know, this loss of activity certainly is having an impact on our restaurants, our retail establishments, and our service businesses that depend upon their presence for their vitality. You made a statement, and Garrett made a statement, that some companies say, we're going to continue this until September 1st, until the fall. So there's more than meets the eye. People are still employed in these office environments. Big Corporation, Edgewell, Prudential, among the major office users, but they're working remotely. The concern that you raised about people getting used to that and its implications long-term for commercial real estate, my hope is that people are social animals by their very nature, and this too will pass. And with time, they will all come back safely into these environments and create the kind of vitality that we need in our center cities. And then lastly, and I know I've said lastly twice, the construction industry was not shut down. We have some major contracting firms here with Turner Construction, Whiting Consterna Construction, Pat Munger Construction. They're all remaining active throughout this crisis. And that was another decision made by the governor with the help of the advisory committee, was to maintain both the manufacturing and the construction industry as essential.
Well, Bill, thank you for that. I think that you and I have had many conversations throughout the years about what's going on in the state and focusing on the good and the bad. And I think it's important to explain what the bad is so we can know how we get to the good, right? Sure. That there's always a path. And I think right now, the people in Connecticut, and I think that talking about the Valley ingenuity, I think that has spread throughout the state. Because people really, I think by and large, want to do the right thing. They want to make sure they're operating their businesses in the right way so then they can get to the next stage. So we don't go backwards like we're seeing other states do. And even though we don't want to see any states go backwards, I think it's a good lesson. I think it's important to look at those states and see what they did, why they moved too quickly, why they were never locked down to the point that we were. We weren't locked down, but we were really closed down effectively in many ways. So we knew how to do it. So I think we were more thankful when we got to open up more and more. And some of these other states just moved forward and said, okay, well, the virus is gone and we're not in this situation. So I'm really proud of all our businesses and the people of the state who have done the right thing. And we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep moving forward, and the other states kind of take a lesson from us.
Yeah. Themis, one thing I'd like to share that we're very proud of, and maybe Garrett can talk about what his chamber has done, but we partnered here with the Valley United Way, the Valley Community Foundation, and the Valley Council to create the COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. And to date, we've raised collectively close to $250,000 and have distributed about $150,000 of that to our frontline caregivers. At the hospital, at the senior care centers, our EMTs. We're very, very proud of that to help our nonprofits to recover, because they too are significant employers here in our community, and they're on the front lines in dealing with this public health crisis. So we're very, very proud of that. And Garrett, I know that you've just created a grant fund for small businesses. You might want to share that with the representative.
Garrett, you're on mute.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. I'd say chambers are more valuable right now than any other time. And we're just constantly moving to what is the next need of the business community. So, Bill, you mentioned with Wells Fargo's support, we had a $100,000 grant fund, and we delivered those to small businesses, just over 80 small businesses in the greater New Haven region. But it's really been a lot of the webinars we've put on as far as just walking through the stimulus programs. There's an avalanche of information out there for business owners or any business to try to navigate through. And so we've tried to be that information source and try to pull out the details that really matter and the things that are going to make a difference, and have someone on the other end of the phone to talk through the issues you're having with your business, whether it's the reopen or applying for stimulus. And make sure we touch the entire community. We have a lot of minority-owned businesses throughout New Haven, throughout our entire region, and we're trying to make sure that we're lifting up all of the businesses, not just downtown, not in any one particular area. And you raised a good point, Bill, too. Our biotech companies have really responded to the moment, and it's been really exciting to see how they've supported Connecticut's efforts. SEMA for the Jackson Labs, providing testing and being part of those efforts. Many others, including Alexion, working on therapeutics, Homodeus, and some of the Jonathan Rothberg's other companies working on test kits. So many different things that Connecticut companies are doing to try to be part of the response. And again, probably the biggest are hospital systems. You mentioned Griffin. Yale New Haven Health has been just incredible in how it's responded. We work with Hartford Healthcare. I mean, all of our hospital systems across the entire state, I know, have stepped up, and the people behind them have really done the work.
Let me, if I could, just make just one final comment about resources. You know, first of all, you know, I think the state response in terms of creating a bridge loan, bridge financing, which went in 36 hours. It was a $25 million fund. Within 36 hours, it was claimed it went up to $50 million. So cash is oxygen for small business, and I just want to thank all those that stepped up to recognize that, not only with business, but also with families. So the 50 or 60 banks and credit unions across the state with their mortgage forbearance program, the utilities, Eversource, Avangrid, UI, for their forbearance, the water companies that stepped up, you know, with easy payment plans to ease the burden on households as well as businesses during this time. And then for your business, our business members to know that there are so many resources to help them through this difficult time, beginning with DECD at the state level, certainly your local banker, the Women's Business Development Center, the Small Business Development Centers, the chambers, of course, and SBA, the SCORE chapters. So there's all sorts of advice professionally with CPAs and your bankers and some of these nonprofits and quasi-publics that are there to support business individually to help them get through this very, very challenging time. You know, the Washington Post reported last week that the country may have lost about 100,000 businesses. This was as of mid-May. And there will be losses, to be sure. But where there's losses, there's also opportunity. We had our first ribbon cutting last week, a new business here in downtown Shelter. So in the midst of this pandemic, it's that spirit of entrepreneurship. Say, I'm going to open up a business. I'm going to lease this space, and I'm going to start my new enterprise. So we'll leave you with that.
Well, and Bill, and Themis, if I could add one more thing too, I think it's going to take a lot of things to keep the economy going. And I know we've had lots of discussions with you about, you know, how we support business, things that can be happening on the state level, getting workers back into their jobs. I know last week the governor announced the school plan. And so I think all of these pieces go collectively into getting our economy back running. And obviously the state has a huge part of that. And so we'll continue to work with you through the rest of this year on those different pieces that support business in Connecticut.
Well, thank you, Garrett. And thank you again for being part of this and the Greater New Haven Chamber. And of course, my friend Bill Purcell and the Greater Valley Chamber, you both do an amazing job and help this economy move forward. So thank you everybody for watching. Please reach out to me in my office at any time and the Valley Chamber and the New Haven Chamber for any resources, information, because we have a lot of information. And if you're a business, we probably have an answer for you. So thank you all and have a great day.